Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but that's a doggone season that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view? Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll major him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy, and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth. He clears his throat of Pennsylvania. North American continent, part of these United States, by the way. North American continent. Western Hemisphere. Part on this planet Earth. The only one we have. Third rock from the sun. In the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy, this is TKE Tonight, the Kennedy Effect Tonight, live with you for the 19th of September, 2024. And I had to kind of wake myself up a tiny bit today as I was working and writing and typing the date over and over and over again, and putting orders in that are for next week, and just remembering that, man, we're on the back half of September already, which is pretty crazy. It's really pretty crazy when you think about it. And it's great to be back here with you. I missed you while we were traveling. I did not, to be fair, not that you couldn't notice, by the way, I did not do the amount of sharing that I had intended. And, I should have been better really with that. I just should have been better with it. Let's put it that way. I just should have done a better job. But I have to admit, whatever it's worth, I got very, very wrapped up in what I was doing. And really, tonight is really where I want to kind of just spend time talking to you about what it is that we were doing and why I was away, if you will. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about that, and just kind of spend time on what we were doing, why we were doing it. Talk to you about the experience, and for those of you who are, loyal to our Sunday program, this might get a little repetitive because I certainly intend to do this again on Sunday. I intend to say a lot of the same stuff again on Sunday. But let me just tell you a little bit. Let me just run through the business end of the program, if you wouldn't mind. You are listening and watching TKE tonight, the Kennedy Effect tonight, live with you for the 19th of September, 2024. Yes, indeed, the back half of September already. In fact, I think Sunday is the first day of autumn, officially, if I'm not mistaken, is the equinox, the autumnal equinox. There's very, very hard not to sound terribly, terribly educated when you use a word like autumnal. But yeah, so yeah, I mean the year, and we're 47 days away, as my dear friend and county chair reminded me today that there are, I think he said 47. Yeah, there's 47 days left until the end of this election cycle. It is flying by. But you are watching us, listening to us, any of the following places. We are live right now on my Facebook, Jeff Kennedy. My name is right there in the bottom left-hand corner of my big fancy square. We continue to use the Ukrainian flag as a background in our unending and much universal support of the Ukrainians in their cause to maintain their country and to maintain be allowed to continue as a people. We are also live on our YouTube channel, which is called That Other Side of Information. We are live on our home group Facebook page for all things that surround the program, which is also called That Other Side of Information. We are live on my Twitch channel, which is Jeff R. Kennedy. We're live on my LinkedIn, which is Jeff Kennedy as well. And of course, the audio of the program blasting around the globe on GCPR.live, Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live. Put that into any search engine, you will find us. It is not that hard. Put it into any search engine, you will find us. Put my name in. I would say put George's name in this. He was here. I assume he's got family things. Forgive me, I know I shouldn't do that so much on the air, but I really rammed dinner into my face. I'm exceptionally thirsty. I'm really, really thirsty all the time, but very much so right now. You can plug in any of the other show hosts into any search engine. You will find us. Please, I continue to invite you to visit our website, GCPR.live. Oh my God. GCPR.live. GCPR.live. Find out about our station. Find out about all of our shows, all of our hosts. Find our schedule and become a regular here at GCPR, where all voices matter and all of you are invited and continue to be invited, and we hope that you will do so, that you'll continue to be a part and supporter of the station. Remember, coming up after us now, I believe Superplex Party is on after us live from 9. Thomas again tomorrow morning from 8. But even before that, don't forget at 11 p.m., Conversations with T. Nathan. All of that live right here on GCPR. Now, a lovely person, because I don't know what. This is a new screen name that I do not recognize. I hope that you're still there, and especially coming from Twitch. I kind of thought our program, honestly, would do a little more on Twitch. I didn't think we would become instant, overnight sorts of famous, but my hope was that we would do okay. I can't exactly say that that's been happening thus far. I've been a little disappointed with the attention that we've received on Twitch. I wish it was a little more. But that said, somebody has been lovely to tune in with us for the first time, or what I think is the first time because I don't recognize the name. Have an interesting question for you since I see a lot of Kennedy posters in the background. Please know, ma'am or sir or they. I don't know what Dark Sage means. Could be anybody. Your questions are welcome. Throw them right in the chat. I will see them. I want your questions. I want you to be part of this conversation. I can certainly talk. That's why I do radio. It's very hard for me to shut up sometimes. But the show is always, always, always better when you all are part of it. With your comments, with your questions, with your jokes, with your, picking on me for being in a plain old white t-shirt, or because I'm kind of a bit of a disheveled mess from just traveling and being dramatically overtired, working today, going right back to work. But we want your questions. We want your comments. Since we have started TKE Tonight, since we've started our weeknight program, and I say this with all sincerity and all honesty, I think it's less than a handful of times that somebody has put a question in that chat that I've ignored it. And I've generally ignored it because the question is either it's somebody trying to have a go. And you know what, when you're on the internet, when you're on these things, people are going to find you. They're going to try to play with you, throw you off your game, try to shake you a bit, or just try to be funny. So it's not a comedy show, but we don't mind having a laugh now and then. There's probably maybe only 3 times that I can think of off the top of my head where I've ignored some stuff coming in, even when folks have asked questions about things that I don't know the answer to, or subject that I really am not studied on. We continue to take your comments and questions. So please know that whomever you are there, screen name Dark Sage, you are welcome here. I would love to hear your question. And as long as it's not something, obscene or something like that, I'll do my very best to try to answer it. Let me get into a little bit of, you can call, because my brain is a bit of mush, and I have a migraine. So I will hope to get to 9. And I'm a little bit thrown off because George isn't here. I assume he's doing family things, which, by the way, God bless him. I know I say it a lot, and I really do say it a lot. And sometimes I think, and I worry, that I get so repetitive that it becomes really, really boring. But some things bear repeating. And among the things that really bears repeating is that George Dare is one of the best human beings on the planet. He just is. And why he has graced me for nearly 2 decades, about 2 decades, really, with his friendship is absolutely beyond me. I don't know that I've always been deserving of. Well, in fact, I know for a fact I haven't always been deserving of it. He is the first person. This program started with 3 people. That's April, myself, and when I first told George that April was going to do this for me, he said, "I'm in. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you need. I am here. I will help you in every way possible. We're going to do this, and it's going to be, we're going to be in this together." And he has been, and he's the best. He's just one of the best human beings I know. And it's not quite the same show when he's not here. Not because he talks so much, but because his presence is very comforting, and it's very, he finds things. If something goes wrong, he can usually help me get through it in midstream. So I just wanted to say that, kind of reiterate that again, just how important he is to everything that we do at GCPR and certainly everything that we do on this program. Let me tell you a little bit about what I was doing Tuesday and Wednesday. And I really, as I mentioned, I really thought I was going to be better about posting TikTok videos and different, pictures and different things of what we were doing. And I really didn't do a very good job of that. Which is a shame. I really should have made more of an effort. I do try to live in the moment, as they say. It's become a very glib sort of phrase to kind of throw out there, but the constant social media age of I'm going to take a picture of my dinner, and then I'm going to take a picture of me eating my dinner. I'm going to take a picture of my dinner halfway through. Then I'm going to take a picture of me finishing it. And then I didn't finish it, so then I'll take a picture of the to-go container, and here's a picture of our waitress or waiter, or I try to live in the moment as best I can. I probably could have taken 1,000 more pictures, but I tried to actually live in the moment and exist in the moment. Now, Kristen, who is a seasoned pro, she has lobbied on Capitol Hill before. I've never been on Capitol Hill other than as a tourist, visitor, if you will. And it was before January 6th. But even then, you couldn't just walk into the Capitol. You could walk the grounds outside. I was in the Longworth office building, never been in there. It's the first time I've ever met with any congressional representative on their turf, so to speak, their office, their city. And not just exclusively their city, but you get my meaning, where they work. I've been to DC as a tourist, but not really anything else. So this is really the first time. It wasn't really. It was the first time I've ever met a congressional rep on Capitol Hill for business, if you will. In this case, the lobbying for something, to be perfectly blunt. And it was a tremendous experience. What a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. I strongly encourage every single one of you. And if you can't go to DC, then find the local office of your member of the U.S. House. If you have a legitimate policy concern, go to that local office. Call that office and see if you can arrange a meeting. It's a very powerful thing, and yet at the same time, terribly, terribly comfortable. So Kristen and I went on behalf of a couple different groups. If you were watching Sunday, Mark Steyer and Dwayne Heisler were here to talk about why we were going to Washington, and that is the Trump 2017 tax scam is set to time out. It's set to fade away, expire. Thank you. Gosh almighty, brain. Get in there. And a significant, now Trump has already said he'll make those tax cuts permanent and go even further. Many of the fascist MAGA Republicans have said the same thing. We just haven't cut taxes enough for rich people. Let's not just extend them, let's make them permanent, and then we'll put another tax cut bill on top of that. 2017 Trump tax scam tax cut bill has cost the United States $8.4 trillion in lost revenue and additional debt. $8.4 trillion. How do I get that number? Because the value of money is constantly being reset or reestablished, if you will. a dollar. We all know that a dollar bought an awful lot more when we were kids than it does now, because of inflationary reasons. Hell, if you're old enough, going off the gold standard, the value of money is constantly changing. In current dollars, even though the Trump tax cut was about $2.3 trillion straight off the gate in 2017. 83% of that, which is about $1.7 trillion of it, went to top 1% and the largest corporations. The other 17%, there were some actual upper middle class tax cuts in there. The middle class, the lower class actually saw their taxes unchanged, but people thought they got a tax cut because the withholding tables were changed. And then that first year, January, February, that first tax season of 2018, after that tax cut was passed, and especially if you are lucky enough, somebody like me who went to an actual tax professional, because I cannot do my own taxes, and they said, oh, you owe big time. How can I owe? We all got a tax cut. No, you didn't get a tax cut. You got a change in your withholding so that you could keep a couple extra bucks, but the rate didn't change. You still owed the same amount of money. It just took less out of your check. When we look at that in real dollars now, modern dollars, it's about $8.4 trillion. And those tax cuts are set to expire at the end of 2025. You might think to yourself, well, why would you go do this now in the midst of an election season? Talk about something that's 15 months away, because the gears, the gears of government grind slow. This is an effort that is going to take all of this 15 months. This is not something that is going to be solved within a normal period of time. In fact, I suspect that it will go right to the last hour as Republicans fight to try to keep this tax cut and Democrats fight to try to get rid of them. So what we did, Kristen and I, first off, Kristen is still on crutches. I was largely a camel. I carried water and bags and computers and notes. And I tried to shut up. And surprise, he didn't really shut up all that much. I didn't really shut up all that much. I talked a lot. I probably talked too much. This was Kristen's work. This is her work, not mine. Although I'm available, folks. But I did talk a lot. And again, probably too much. So the first day of this conference was a series of speeches about why are we doing this? Why is it important? What does it mean? Polling data about how raising taxes on the rich and corporations, how it polls, how popular it is with all sides of the aisle. How to talk to your rep, kind of a bit of a script, but yet not an actual script, kind of a guide to walk yourself through, because these meetings are very quick. That was the first day. Second day was the actual meeting in the Longworth House Office Building, which is directly across the street from the Capitol. You can walk above ground or take the tunnel underneath from building to building. So we met with our Congresswoman from the PA, from the Pennsylvania 7th Congressional District, Susan Wild. And I have to tell you, I have always considered Susan to be a pretty nice lady. I think she's been an excellent legislator. I haven't always agreed with how her campaigns have been run, or the way that she's presented herself in these campaigns. She is an excellent legislator. And I don't just mean that because she happens to do a lot of things I agree with. She really deeply understands policy, the statistics, the history behind said policies. She understands the political process. She understands, the old, what were those cartoons? How a bill becomes a law. I'm just a bill, just a regular old bill sitting here on Capitol Hill. She knows Schoolhouse Rocks. She knows the process really in and out. She knows the law in and out. And she writes her own legislation. Obviously, staff helps. She writes her own legislation, and she really does understand the process. And I thought to myself, now, we were not originally scheduled to meet with her. We were going to meet with her legislative director, who herself could not, well, I'll tell you, first off, let me do it this way. Let me do it a little more chronologically. We're set to meet with her at 10:30 in the morning. But as a group, we were supposed to meet on Capitol Hill at 8 in the morning. I don't think anybody made it on time because, as beautiful a city as Washington, D.C. is, as much redevelopment as has been done there, and you don't have to be a regular visitor to the city to notice just how much the city has been completely remade. Because you see the big buildings, you see the flipped row houses, you see the streets have been paved, everything's cleaner. It's a real gentrified city, and I don't always think that gentrification is an evil thing. It depends on how it's done. When you go into a block full of poor black families, pay them pennies on the dollar for the value of their homes and the property, and you kick them out of the city and you flatten their block and put up a 10-story building of $3,000 a month shoebox rentals, that's the shit part of gentrification. When the money from empty lots and burnt out houses, you put new buildings on them, it revitalizes neighborhoods, that money spreads around, businesses come in, and the poor black families that are in that said area actually begin to benefit with jobs and tourists coming and things like that. That's the good part of gentrification. I'm really going off on a tangent. That said, so we get to the Longworth office building. We're supposed to meet at 8. I have driven in Manhattan, in Philadelphia, I've driven in Miami. Where else? Boston. I'm not the greatest world traveler, and I don't claim to be. I've driven around some big cities in this country. The single worst city I've ever driven in is Washington, D.C. Because even though the streets have largely been repaved, they're painted lovely, it's a really difficult city to find your way around. Even with the sat nav, right on the dashboard telling you where to turn, here, take a left onto said street. Well, I can't find the street sign. It's too small. It's tucked up here. It's next to a building. There's a tree hanging in front of it. Like, it took us an hour and a half to go 8 miles, I think. We hit every single light. It just took forever. Worst city in the world to drive in so far in my life. I've not driven in LA, nor do I have any desire to do so. Orlando, I've driven all over Florida. But so there was that. So we hobble our way up to Capitol Hill because Kristen's still on crutches. We were supposed to meet everybody at 8 o'clock in the morning, have a little bit of a powwow, and then split and go our different ways. We didn't get there till almost 9. We were supposed to meet with the Congresswoman with the 5 of us. That just ended up being Kristen and I. 10:15 comes. We go up, or about 10:05. We go up. We're waiting outside of her office. We wait till about 10:15. We poke our heads in. We say we're here. They ask us if we can wait in the hall. And originally I thought, well, that's kind of crappy. But then I peeked, and I was really taken aback at how small these congressional offices are. They really are pretty small. There was a young man. As soon as you walk in the door, there were 2 desks. the main reception desk, which was built in, lovely wood, 2 big giant computer screens in front of this young lady, and a guy sitting against the wall on a table that could not have been more than 18 inches wide. He couldn't even get his own legs under it. Well, first off, the young man was probably about 6'2", but he couldn't even get his legs under it. He was trying to negotiate how to get one leg under, the other one's sticking out. It's too short. He has a full desktop computer on it, and directly above him is a TV. There's a little waiting room that Representative Wild has filled with, memorabilia from the Lehigh Valley. We get offered a marshmallow peep because, of course, they're made right here in Bethlehem by the Just Born Company. There's pictures, there's pennants from all the colleges. We get taken back to through the office, which is basically a room. It can't be any bigger than this bedroom, maybe 8 by 10. There's at least 4 people with full desks in it and full computers. We go into the conference room, which is also where she has a couch and her desk. And I was just taken aback a little bit at how small all of that was, having never been there before. Of course, Kristen's like, oh, you're going to be surprised how small it is. And that's just how cramped. And it really was. We sit, we meet with the legislative director, we start to tell her why we are here. And again, we were not expected, nor were we scheduled to meet with Representative Wild herself. We were told she was going to be in meetings all day. House was in session. There were hearings going on while we were there. The one thing that is all over the office is TVs. Interestingly, they're all tuned to CNN. Found that kind of interesting. Not MSNBC. Certainly not shocked that it wasn't Fox. Representative Wild is a Democrat. Thought it would be MSNBC, but she goes middle of the road, goes CNN. Good with that. It's her office. I got no business to tell her what to put on. So we sit down, we start to talk with her legislative director about why we are there. We start talking about tax fairness and the end of the Trump tax cuts. The young lady that we spoke to, Laura, says, oh, we're well aware. We're already looking at it. 15 months out, she's already planning on how to work this issue. Laura then tells us that the representative will be in and joining us shortly. She's running a little late. To which Kristen and I sort of glance at each other, and Kristen says, oh, that's awesome. That's great. And I said, bonus, we weren't expecting her. We weren't told she was going to be here. But she comes in, super casual, could not have been nicer. Slaps down a legal pad, starts taking notes, and says, why are you here? Let's get to it. And we tell her, we're here with this group and this group and this group representing, Americans for Tax Fairness and tax, tell her what we're talking about. As you know, the Trump tax cuts are going to set to expire at the end of 2025. And she goes, oh yeah, I'm well aware. Well, we're seeking help from our representatives to make sure that these tax cuts are not extended, or worse, that they're not increased. And I mean, larger cuts. She smacks the table and says, I'm in. What else you got? And I thought to myself, okay, for a very brief second, and I'm just being completely honest with you, this is not a value judgment or anything. I thought to myself there for about 5 seconds. I thought, now she's saying that to us to shut us up and get us out of here. And then her next sentence came, I am with you on this. We keep getting told that we don't have the money to pay for this and this and this and this. Yes, we do. And it was one of the kind of points that we had been schooled on the day before, that the United States does not have a money problem. We don't have a problem that we don't have enough money to pay for certain things. We have a revenue problem because we're not bringing in enough money to pay for certain things. It's not that we don't have the money. It's not being brought in. It's why Republicans wanted to strip the extra money the Biden administration gave to the IRS because they didn't want them going after rich people. By the way, that money that's been invested into the IRS has already yielded $20+ billion in unpaid taxes from members of the economic top 1%. So a quarter of the money that was scheduled to go to an increased expenditure to go fund the IRS over a 10-year period, by the way, a quarter of that in just 3 years has already been clawed back. That's going after rich people, wealthy people, top 1%ers, and large companies who have skated and not paid taxes. Not just filed these massively complicated returns trying to justify why they shouldn't have to pay anything and why they should actually get a rebate, but literally just not paying. Sometimes not even filing. We proceeded to talk with the Congresswoman then about a recent hospital merger that happened here in the Lehigh Valley. Talked about the plans for Mack Trucks to vacate its plant here in the valley and move to Mexico. And then we talked about food, how we should all get together and go get dinner, and talked about our dogs and showed each other pictures of our dogs, and talked about a bill that she's been crafting for quite a while now to protect the right to in vitro fertilization. Now that's a very Cliff Notes sort of version of it because we only have about 20 minutes left. But this is the point that I really want to try to emphasize. So as I said, she kind of burst in, kind of short of breath, pretty casual. She's got a legal pad with notes all over it. It says, "I'm so sorry I'm late. I got held up at the previous meeting. Really sorry I'm late." Sits at the end of the table. I said the same thing to her that I had said earlier. I said, well, Kristen is so much more measured and just classy in these situations. I tend to just blurt what's in my brain. It's not always a good thing. Kristen, of course, says, "Oh, well, please, we understand how busy you are. You have a packed schedule, and on and on and on." And I just looked at Representative Wild and I said, "We didn't even know you were coming. So, yeah, bonus, thanks. It's just great to see you here." And then that's when Representative Wild said something immensely important. She sat down, big exhale, kind of wiped some hair out. She's rushed, you can see it. And she said, "Your constituents. So of course I'm going to be here." Now, I don't always agree with Representative Wild. I don't. Sometimes I think she could go further. Sometimes I think she could be more progressive. Sometimes I think she could use the very, very stellar representation she has earned herself on Capitol Hill and use some of that political capital to push the boundaries of legislation and to be more progressive. But in that moment, none of that mattered. Because she looked Kristen and I dead in the face and said, "Your constituents. So of course I'm going to be here." And at the end of the day, some would consider it maybe the minimum that you should ask and expect. I think it's a pretty big deal. It's exactly what you want from your representative. She works for us and she knows it. She represents us and she knows it. She has as firm a grasp of what she's doing as probably anyone on Capitol Hill in either chamber. So we talked about tax fairness. We talked about Mack Trucks moving, hospital merger. We talked a lot about IVF. and the protections of autonomy for women over their own bodies. And then, like I said, literally we shared pictures of each other's dogs. She wants to meet Daisy. And then I said something that I think most people would consider to be kind of flippant. And I said, hey, when you're home again, why don't we all go get dinner? I mean, she lives here. She lives here. We're not that far from each other. She thanked me for being on state committee and said, that's really important. I was unaware that you were on state committee, but now that I know, we need to talk more. That's all you can ask. Again, it doesn't mean that we're going to agree. It doesn't mean that every time I pick up the phone, she's going to answer it or dial the phone. Yeah, whatever, you know what I mean. I think I got my diction wrong there. It doesn't mean that. But it just displays an understanding of the job. And it is a job. And even though I've known the representative, and I don't mean to say we know her well, we're not, we don't spend Christmas Eve together. I'm not trying to say that. But I've known her the whole time she's run and been in Washington. That this is a human being that's sitting in front of you. Even though you're in this congressional office with this wood and it's painted so lovely and it's very official, it's very Washington. She just sat down like any regular human being and we talked to each other. And she said something very important, and it's something that all of you need to hear. She and so many of the other people with which she serves want what we did Wednesday to happen. She wants to hear from us. She wants to meet us and see us. She wants to hear what we're thinking. It's her job, and she knows it. If Kristen was able to bring up a problem we're having with a healthcare company. I got to bring up a problem going back to COVID and my job and PPE loans. We probably knocked through about 10 different topics in maybe 20 minutes. And by the way, she wasn't scheduled to be there in the first place, let alone give us that much time. And she will be appearing on this program. We've worked on that too. We don't have a date quite yet, but I have her commitment to appear here. And when she does, unless someone else does ahead of her, she'll be the first sitting U.S. House representative to appear here, even though I have invited dozens. She would be the first to appear here if she beats everybody else. She makes it over. But I think it's exceptionally important that whether it is your local office in your neighborhood or your town or the next town over, or you can actually pick yourself up and get to DC. And by the way, that's not easy. We had people in this group that had come from Erie, Pennsylvania. They drove 10 plus hours to get to DC. There were people there from Arizona, the state of Washington, Oregon, Montana. They came from everywhere for this. 19 different states were represented. And I think at some point during the 2 days, it was as many as 26. And it's not easy for all of them to get there. At least we could drive from Pennsylvania. Some of them had to fly, and it's expensive. But I want to emphasize more than just the political part of it. I want to try to emphasize the human part of it. Susan Wild's a real human being. She eats and sleeps and breathes, gets dressed just like the rest of us, and goes to work. Her work happens to be member of the U.S. House of Representatives for my congressional district, which she's doing the job. She's a real person. She's not just a face that you see on TV doing interviews. She's a human being. And she and her staff, every single one of them, could not have been nicer. They spoke, they treated us with the absolute utmost, top, highest level of respect, and at the same time talked to us like people. Did not talk down to us. They did not try to dumb down legislation and policy so that little people like us could explain it. They talked to us like equals, like human beings. Representative Wild did not address us as mere mortals. You know, we're not peons. We're equals. She just happens to hold a different position than we do. That's the feeling that I took away from her. She's the one in the big chair, no question. But we were not lesser people for not being in the chair. If that makes sense, a bit of a double negative. But I think you understand where I'm getting at. Truly, I do. So, and she did say, I like these meetings. Your constituents, I need to hear what's going on. I want to hear what you're concerned about. I have to know. She's invited us back to the local office. That when she's around, we can go talk to her in the local office and keep these conversations going. But folks, you need to do what we did, and you can. And just because the big thing that's happening on the Hill right now is a spending, what they call continuing resolution, to keep the government funded. That's the big thing that's happening there. I believe they have 4, maybe 5 legislative days left, or the government will shut down. Now, Trump wants the government shut down. I actually get the feeling Speaker Johnson does not. So you might think to yourself, well, why would she meet? Why would my rep meet with me when they're days away from a government shutdown? Because it's their job. It's their job. And you might think to yourself, well, I'm not going to call and try and get myself an appointment to talk about how my Social Security isn't covering things, or my health insurance company screwed me, or they got to keep the government funded. It's still their job to talk with you and to hear what you're thinking. And I swear to you, they want to hear it. They do want to know. Now, she gave us way much more time than we were expecting. I know 20 minutes to a half an hour might not seem like much, but her schedule was absolutely packed and timed down to the minute, and we kind of blew it apart. And why did she do that? Again, because she looked us in the face and said, your constituents. I want to know what you're thinking. I need to know what's going on. I need to know what you're experiencing. And then, in all honesty, the lovely, we took a nice couple of pictures, and she just, hands and said, I know you guys are doing IVF. I wish you nothing but luck. I'll be thinking about you. Please let me know how it's going. Exceptionally human. And her staff could not have been nicer. And I mean that. Could not have been nicer. And even more so, I don't think it was a forced sort of politeness, like everybody whispering to each other, oh, their constituents, make sure you're nice to them. No, I think they're just nice people. They could not have been nicer. They literally could not have done more for us. Are you hungry? Drinks? Do you need this? Do you need that? And we spoke with, a few staffers at length. Their communications director, Natalie, we spoke to probably after the meeting was over for yet another maybe half hour. We just stood in the hall and had a wonderful, lovely conversation. Lots of laughs, lots of jokes, serious but lighthearted. Folks, I deeply, deeply encourage you, if there's a group in your area, a group that you're part of, whether it's the Democratic Party or a group like Americans for Tax Fairness or votevets.org or moveon.org or the Sierra Club or any one of the American Cancer Society, Planned Parenthood. I mean, the National Education Association, any one of 1,000 different groups, and you have legislation that you feel strongly about, help that group arrange a lobbying day. Or if you know that the group is going to have a lobbying day, sign up and go. Or, like I said, you went to the doctor, you got the bill, health insurance said they would cover it, and they didn't. Go to the local office. If you can schedule a time with the actual representative, do it. They need to hear from you. That's democracy. That's how democracy works. Do I expect Representative Wild to be able to solve all of the issues that she was kind enough to discuss with us? Do I expect her to solve all of them on her own? No. Do I expect that she agrees with us on everything we discussed? I happen to know, yes, she does. But would I have, if she had said, I'm not sure if I'm there with you on that thing, would I have been surprised? Would I have been pissed off, disappointed? No. She's a human being with her own feelings and views. And on some of this policy, she knows a hell of a lot more than I do. Actually, probably pretty much everything she knows a hell of a lot more than I do. But the exercise, the effort of doing these things, when your own representative, again, I'm meeting with Representative Wild, she's my congresswoman. She's Susan. I know her. When she looks us in the face and says, your constituents, it's important. We have to remember that's the job. And the staffs of these representatives are made up of some of the nicest people, some of the hardest working people you're ever going to see. They make government go. Now, we also saw lots of other groups of people milling about who are going in meetings with various representatives and so on. And you can just kind of see they are here to get their piece of the pie. You can kind of tell who the business, moneyed interests, groups and lobbyists are. And to be honest with you, they knew we were just citizens. I didn't go there with a $5,000 suit on. I wore golf pants and a golf shirt. I was told to be casual. Kristen was much better dressed than I. But I'm also a fat bastard now because my back is so screwed up I can't do anything. And I don't really have a hell of a lot that fits. So I dressed the best I could. I actually dressed the way they kind of directed you to dress, to be clean, neat, well-kempt, but business casual, comfortable. So that's what we went for. But those words from that meeting will stick with me. You're my constituents. It's my job. I want to be here. I want to meet with you. We as representatives need these meetings. We need to know what you are thinking. We need to know how you feel about things. And folks, you can and should be doing the same thing. Go to the local office of your state rep, your state senator, your U.S. House member, your U.S. senator. They all have local offices. If you're not healthy enough that you can't make the trip to D.C. or you can't afford a trip to D.C., because we spent some money in 2 days, I can tell you, then go to the local office. You know when Congress is in session. You know when your rep is in district, because media will cover that. Representative was here meeting with this group. And then that group's right over 2 blocks from here. Go to the local office. Be heard. It's democracy. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It is a two-way street. We must be involved in it. Democracy is not something that is done to us. It is done for us and with us. We must be a part of it. We must be a part of it. We have to be. Or it doesn't function. The overall experience of the 2 days could not have been better. There's nobody on the planet that I would have wanted to spend 2 days with more than Kristen. I was lucky to be in her presence, and I am every single day. But I was lucky to be with her. I was lucky to have somebody so professional, so poised, and so classy. Representative Wild herself simply could not have been nicer. It could not have been more productive. It could not have been more substantive. It could not have been a more pleasant conversation if life depended on it. Her staff is absolutely top shelf. They could not have been nicer. If you treat them with respect, they will treat you with even more respect. Folks, please think about it. Please think about something that's happening in your life that you want to see taxes raised on the rich, on big corporations. You want to see the capital gains tax. You want to see tax. I mentioned this to her actually. I don't want to just not see the Trump tax cuts extended. I want to see the tax system return to a New Deal pre-Reagan levels. I want that top marginal rate at 91%. I want the corporate rate back to 50. I want capital gains back to 35. I want tariffs back at 25. To protect and grow domestic industries, which is what tariffs are designed for. Not the way Trump does it, but the way Alexander Hamilton designed it. So, or like I said, maybe it's something as simple as, hey, my employer took a lot of PPE money and they never hired us. Or I got approval from my insurance company for a procedure where they directed me to how I had to do said procedure. I did it, and then they threw the bill at me anyway. So all things that our representatives need to hear. They need to hear them. And you have to be the ones to tell them. So if you're in Randall and you're in Delaware County, he has told me 1,000 times who his representative is. It's not Madeline Dean. I think it's Mary Gay Scanlon, I think. And Randall has to find her local office, and Randall probably knows where her local office is, and make an appointment to see her in the local office. Donna has to do the same thing in Missouri. Mike has to do the same thing. Well, Mike's probably got a Republican representative who doesn't give a flying crap what he thinks about anything, but that's even more the reason to go see him. We've got less than a minute left. Quick program update. Obviously, this is the start of our end of our broadcast week. Our plan is to return with you Sunday from 6 p.m. for our 3-hour program. Coming up, it is Mary Kay Scanlon. Thank you. I got it right. Coming up immediately after us, supposed to be Superplex Party, T. Nathan from 11. Conversations with T. Nathan from 11 p.m. Thomas returns tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. For everybody at GCPR, Thomas, T. Nathan, George, Gambit, Gilbert, Gretchen, Solid Blue Sister, Bob Kosh, soon Chuck and Simon. To everybody surrounds this program, Lynn and George, Kristen, Daisy the dog, and of course April Riddick. I'm Jeff Kennedy. We've done about all the damage we can do for one night. We'll see you again on Sunday. Superplex Party right after us. T. Nathan from 11, Thomas 8 in the morning. Please take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you Sunday.